Hello there. This is the Getting Started video for DaySmart Spa. We're going to go through those things that are going to get you set up in the program, like going through the setup wizard, adding in services, adding in employees, adding in a schedule, going over the appointment book, scheduling an appointment, checking an appointment in and out, looking up client information, and then also running a totals report at the very end and some of the text message settings. Without any further ado, let's go ahead and dive right in. Now, before I start going through the setup wizard, I want to give you a brief lay of the lands. So we're looking at the appointment book screen. I got a bunch of appointments in here. We'll go through making appointments in a second. But up here, we have different buttons that take you to different parts of the program. I got the client screen. I got my services screen. I got my employee screen, my reporting screen. If I click on more, it's going to pull up the more drop down and give me some more choices in here that I can click on to go to some of these other subscreens. Now, to go ahead and start the setup wizard, I'm going to go to the options under the more drop down and pull up some choices here on the left hand side of the screen. And normally what happens is the setup wizard will run automatically when you first get into the program, but if you skip it, you can actually come here to management under the options menu and you can go down here to setup wizard. And let's go ahead and run through this together. It's a 4-step process to help you start getting the program set up. So I'm going to click here on where it says start setup. And it's going to pull me into step 1, which is putting in the business hours. I would put in here the hours that the business is open. If the business was closed, I could do that. I could change the hours here by clicking in here and adjusting whatever I need to do. And then once I've made the changes I need, I would go ahead and hit save. That's going to take me to step 2 of the setup wizard. This is probably the most important step. So if you don't have any services in your program, right, you probably are starting off with nothing in the system. This is going to generate a list of services that you can pull through and add into your system without having to type in each service manually. So we're going to add these in for you automatically. There's a bunch of different massage services in here, a bunch of different categories of service. You would just click off those services that you want to add into your system. So let's just click some of these. And I will just go ahead and add some in. I could click these one by one. So let's say I want to add just that one. And then when I've selected all the services I want, I would hit this Save Service. Now, just so you know, we can electronically convert a list of services for you. Just call into the tech support team and we can do that. Or you can manually add the services in. You do not have to use the pre-generated list. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Save Services here and move on to step 3. Step 3 is going to be about taxes. This is where I would put in the tax name, the tax rate, product and service rates would be here. I could also do different types of tax. I could do European taxes, or I could actually add another tax rate, and then I would have 2 separate tax rates here. I would just give it a name and then some other information here before I go ahead and save this. Now, I'm going to remove that second tax and keep it real simple. I'll just leave these set to 0 and hit Save Taxes. And then step 4, the last step of the setup wizard, is to go through and add in employees. So it wants me to go ahead and type in an employee first and last name and an email address here. Now, if I did that, what the system would do is it would send an email to the employee to go ahead and turn on their account. They'd have to go in and choose their password. And then once they did that, they would be fully activated in the system. But until they do that, they would be listed in the system in a pending status, meaning that they're not fully set up yet. I'm going to skip setting up the employees on this step, and I'll show you how to do that on a subsequent step down the road here. So I'll hit Add Employees and Finish. It says, hey, wait a minute, you didn't add anybody. I'll say, yeah, that's fine. Okay. And then I will complete the setup wizard by hitting this little close button right here, and I will close that out. Now, the first thing I want to do is go into my list of services that we pulled through from the setup wizard and walk you through how to edit those services, because the prices and durations that were included are probably not accurate. I wouldn't imagine they would be. So I'm going to click on services and go into the service menu. This little helper is going to try to help me. I'll say no thanks for right now. But then I would just click on one of the services that I wanted to change. And I could go into the details and change any of those details that I want. I could change the name, I could change the category, the ID, I could give it its own special color, I could give it its own special duration, and I could also give it its own special price. And this is where I would check off if I wanted to include sales tax or not. And then once I'm done making the changes that I need to do here, I would just hit Save to save that, those changes that I made. Now, if I wanted to add in my own services, so let's just back out of this, I'll discard my changes. I would just click down here on the service menu list, and I would click on the little plus sign. And then that would pull up the Add Service or Create Service option, where I would just give it a name, give it its own category. An ID is normally just an abbreviation of the service name. Pick a color, put a price and duration, and I'm off to the races. I would just hit save to save that out. Awesome. And then once the services have been added in, there's two things that kind of go hand in hand with setting up the program. It's services and employees, right? So after the services have been added in, I would go through adding in the employees. So let's click on the employee screen and run through what that looks like. So I'll click on employees here. I have some employees listed. I could edit these employees by clicking on them and going in their details, or I could add to this list by clicking on the little plus sign down here. If I hit this little plus sign, it's going to pull up a screen asking me for the employee information. First name, last name, nickname, role, birthday, email, address, phone number, all that fun stuff. All it needs is the first name, last name, and email. And then once you click next, it's actually going to send this employee an email to go ahead and set up their account. And you would finish out by going into this employment setup tab here, which it won't let me go to because I don't have real credentials for this employee. So to show you what that employment setup tab looks like, let's back up out of this screen and go into an existing employee and just talk a little bit about it. So we'll go in here and then we'll click on employment setup, and let's run through what some of these options look like. So up at the top, you get to choose whether or not the person is an administrator. You could choose whether or not they're supposed to receive notifications. You can also list them as an independent contractor, meaning they keep all their own totals. And then down here, there's some display settings, choosing whether or not the person is employed at the business anymore, or whether or not the person should show on the appointment book. For instance, like a receptionist that doesn't take appointments, or manager. And if we scroll down just a little bit further, there's this very important topic we need to cover at the bottom called service limitations. If I click yes here, what I can do is I can tell the system, you know what? This employee, Faith, does not perform all of the services. She only performs massage. So if I check off just that one box, all of the massage services under that category would be checked off as well, right? So there they all are. And then that would mean I'm telling the system, hey, you know what? This employee cannot do electrolysis. They can't do laser hair removal, miscellaneous services, or any of these skincare services. So the system would know not to book those services under this employee's name and would guide you against doing that if you were accidentally making a mistake. For our example, I'm going to turn this back to off, and then I'll go ahead and save this and save that, the changes that I made to the employee. I really didn't change anything, so no big deal. Okay. Now, once you've added in your services and employees, you're really pretty much ready to start booking appointments. You don't have clients yet, but you can actually add the clients in as you're booking. And let's run through that on the appointment book screen. So I'm going to click on the appointment book screen here, and it's going to navigate me. All right. And I got a bunch of different color codes on here for my different services. But let's talk a little bit about changing what you're looking at and navigating around on this screen before we make an appointment. So up here, I would choose which employees I want to see. So if I want to only see one employee, I do that. Show me just that one employee. I could switch it back to all employees. I could show just 2 employees on the schedule, just depending on what you were looking for and filtering for. I could also choose to show more than 1 day at a time. I could show 3 days. I could show a week. I could show a month. Let me show you what that looks like. It just breaks it up on the screen like that. And then, if you want to go back to the 1 day view, click back to 1 day, and you're off to the races. Now, over here on the left-hand side, there's a calendar. I can navigate, to different years here. I can also navigate in here and go to my week calendar, right? So I can go in here and I can navigate from week to week, from month to month. I can jump out a certain number of weeks if I need to in order to get out there faster without having to count it manually. And then also, you can hide these things. So I can hide this away. I can hide this whole calendar away if I want to see more of my appointment book on the screen. Now, down at the bottom, you do have the ability to do this move appointment. This is a little clipboard where you can actually drag and drop an appointment and park it there. I'll show you that after we make an appointment on the appointment book screen. So without any further ado, let's run through that process. To make an appointment on the appointment book screen, I just click once, and it's going to want some information about the appointment. So who is coming in? Who is the client? I will just go ahead and select walk-in. Walk-in is just basically like a John Doe client in the system. And then I will select the service that they want, right? So let's choose a service here. And then if I go ahead and just hit save at the bottom, or schedule I should say, it's going to add that service into the appointment book for that employee and that client at that time. Now, I'm going to make a more advanced appointment here in just a second because I use this walk-in client. I'm going to run through adding in a new client, but let me show you how to cancel this away. So let's say that we did this by mistake. We'll click on the appointment, you click no-show, and then you just deselect no-show, and then just type in the reason here for the cancellation, and then just hit cancel appointment, like so. And then that will make the appointment go away. And then let's actually run through creating an appointment for a client that's not in the system yet that you wanted to add in. So we'll click here once, and now instead of filling out the details here on this appointment card, I'm going to hit this plus new client, and it's going to pull up the new client screen. And then this is where I'm going to go ahead and type in the credentials for the employee, right? So I'll go ahead, or for the client, I should say. So for our example, I'll just put in their first and last name. You would normally put in their category, phone number, birthday, email, all that stuff. And then I'm actually going to turn off these automatic alerts. For our example, that way I'm not going to send out any alerts. There's no phone number or email. You would want to make sure that you're getting those things at this step so that the system could message your customers. I'll hit save here. And that's going to advance me to the create appointment screen. And now on this more advanced create appointment screen, I want to point some things out. So we're looking at the appointment details. I can see notes. I can see upcoming appointments. I can see recent visits. I can see photos of the client. I can also see loyalty point balances and balance for any kind of credit that is owed to the customer or owed to the business by the customer. If I collapse this away, I'm still on my create appointment screen. I haven't actually left this screen yet, so I would just choose the service that I want. And then because I'm on the appointment details screen, I could go in here and change any of the details if I needed. I could change the duration. Let's just say make it a little longer. I could change the price because the duration has changed as well. So let's say it costs a little bit more because of the extra duration. I could also put on here a special note that's going to actually show up and kind of follow this appointment around and be visually notified of that right on the appointment book screen. So let's hit schedule. I want to show you what this looks like. So here's my DaySmart Spa appointment. And if I click right here or hover over this special note, it will tell me what the note says. Okay. Awesome. And then let's talk a little bit about what you can do once the appointment's in here. So I can move it around. I can drag it or drop it. I can move it to another day on the calendar if I wanted to by changing the amount of days I see and then just picking it up and moving it to whatever day I want. I could also, like I said earlier, I could park the appointment down here in this little clipboard and then jump out to another day in the future, pick it up off the clipboard, and then put it on the day like so. Right, so a bunch of different options to move the appointment around visually. I'm just going to take it back and put it back to today. So I'll put it back on the clipboard, click on the Today button to quickly navigate to today on the appointment book screen. I'm going to change this back to day view, and then I'm going to pick it up and be able to drop it right back on the appointment book screen. Okay, awesome. And then normally what's going to happen is the customer is going to show up, and you're going to click on the appointment, and you're going to check the appointment in when they show up. So we'll click this little check-in option. It's going to check the appointment in and have this little check mark that appears and the color changes. And then you would just continue throughout your day, servicing other customers. And then once it was time to go back in here and maybe add in some notes, let's run through what that looks like. So I click on the appointment. I go into appointment details. I could go in here into notes, and I could go ahead and type in my notes right in here. I could hit save, and it's going to save those notes on the client profile. I could also look at upcoming visits or recent visits. And if, let's say, I wanted to look at more details about this client, like I want to know their address or I want to know how they heard about the business, I can click here on View Profile. And that is actually going to open up a secondary tab. So I'm still in my appointment book screen on my first tab here, but then on my secondary tab, I'm looking at the client screen, and I'm in here on DaySmart Spa's profile. So I can see all of the details about this customer on this screen. The overview screen gives me a bunch of really pertinent information at a glance. Personal info is going to be where I put in their address, how did they hear about us. There's a special comment section down here. There's a history tab that breaks down how much money they spent, how much they're worth, how many no-shows and cancellations. A balance and loyalty point section to keep track of those things for you. This is the advanced note screen, which you can see all the notes without any restrictions. And last but not least is client photos. If you're going to use the system for client photos, strongly encourage you to download the app on your phone and use the camera on your phone to go ahead and take those pictures. All right, so I'm going to actually close the second tab. So let's say that I saw what I needed to see about the client, and I'm going to go back to the appointment. And let's say that because of what I saw, I wanted to add on another service. So they normally add another service on here. I'd click into here. I would choose the service that I want to use. Let's choose this one here. And it's going to pull up all the details. I could still change the details here if I needed to. But if I wanted, I could just hit save. And I want to point out something that's going to happen. I think this is going to double book. Oh, no, it's still not double booked. If it double books, it's totally fine. The system will just show it through spacing that there's 2 appointments happening at the same time. All right, so let's go back into here and let's go to this checkout option. So we put in our notes, we check the client in, the client is ready to pay and be checked out. So let's click checkout right here and run through what that's going to look like for you. Okay, so it's going to pull up the checkout screen, which is, of course, it wants you to potentially sell them more. This is where you could add on products. A lot of times that's where this happens. You could also sell gift cards or add a balance onto the client's profile. Couple different choices here. Let's say that everything was good. We didn't need to change the price. We didn't need to add a discount. Everything was looking good here. So we'll just click this proceed to payment option. And that's going to pull up the payment screen, right? And it's going to want to know real straightforward what payment type they're using and then how much they're paying. So the balance due on this transaction is $285. So let's go ahead and run through what this looks like. If I click this credit button, it's going to try to sell me the integrated credit card processing. Strongly encourage you to use this. This would connect to an integrated credit card processor and store those credit cards on file, all kinds of other nifty things that it does. But for our example, let's say no thanks. I'm going to say no thanks to that. It's going to take me to the payment screen, and I'm going to put in how the person is paying. So let's say they paid with their Visa card, and I rung them up for $300 total for that transaction. So I'm going to add that payment in. The system knows that there's $15 change that should be given. I could go ahead and just, indicate that that's how the transaction was going to go and close the transaction, or I could take that change amount and leave it as a tip. So let's hit add tip, and I'll run you through what that looks like. So it pulls up the service provider. I would just go ahead and put on the total tip that was going to be left, hit add, and then you'll notice on here the payments match the amount due. Everything is totally zeroed out on this side, so I'm ready to go ahead and hit close ticket and close this transaction, right? I can enter an email and send an email receipt. I could print the receipt, or I could skip the receipt. I'll hit skip receipt. Then it pulls up this Rebook screen, so I could actually click Rebook, and it pulls up this little appointment card. I could jump out a number of weeks, and here I am on the 27th of October. I could choose what time I want to book the appointment for, and then if I want to rebook, I just hit schedule, and it's going to throw that appointment on the books for me. There you go. Awesome. Now I'm going to jump back to today in the appointment book, so you can see that the appointment that I checked out is blacked out. That's how you would know that the appointment is checked out and paid, as the color will automatically change to this black color here. Now let's say that somebody walked in off the street and they just wanted to buy something. So they didn't have an appointment, they just want to buy something. You would actually click up here on checkout and be able to run through the checkout process for them without them having an appointment. So I'll hit checkout, search clients, and I'll show you this pretty quick. I'm going to go into here and I would type in the client that was, doing the transaction or purchasing. And then it bumps me right into the checkout screen. So I totally bypass the appointment scheduling module, and I go in here, put in my product. The product I selected doesn't have a price, so I'd have to add a price in here like so. And then from here on out, it should be exactly the same as the other transaction we did. We hit proceed to payments, put in the amount of money due, or the amount of money paid, I should say. And then we're ready to close the transaction and generate the receipt or skip the receipt, all that fun stuff. So I'll hit skip receipt and I'll jump back to the calendar here. Awesome. Okay. And then, really that's the day-to-day usage. I was going to go through the totals report still and then some text messaging settings with you. Let's run through that fairly quickly to just round this out for you. So at the end of the day, most people are going to be running their totals report. We'll go into reports. There's a bunch of reports in here. Strongly encourage you to go through and look at these, but the one we're looking for is going to be under favorites, and it's sales totals and sales tax by range of dates, this one right here. And we would choose to run this for whatever range of dates we wanted to look at, a month, a year, 2 months, whatever. I'm going to run it for just the day, and I'll hit run report, and you'll get an idea what this does. So this breaks down amount of products sold, services, membership, taxes collected, tips, credits used, gift cards, points redeemed. Over here under payment and change, it'll list all the different payment and change types, taxes collected. All the employees and their individual totals would show down here. And then if you wanted more information about any of these line items, just click on details, and it pulls up a detailed breakdown of where these totals are coming from, right? So I can look at this, figure out what's going on with my totals. I can print this. I can export this report depending on what I might need. And then at the very end, for this getting started video, because almost everybody wants this function, or feature I should say, let's go through text messaging. So I'm going to go to More, go to Options, and come over here to the left-hand side where it says Email and Texting. Now, I already have this turned on, so when you turn this on, you will see only reminders and notifications. You'll click on that, and then it's going to pull you through a screen where it's going to ask you to verify all your business's information before it turns on the messaging. It wants to know that the business name on file is accurate, and that's what you want your customers to see. So you just go ahead and confirm that and agree to that, and then once you hit OK, you'll get to this screen, which is where you're going to confirm how you want the reminders to send. So this is going to send a reminder one day before as an email and a text. It's going to allow them to confirm. I could click into here and change my template if I needed to. I could also preview my template by clicking this button. And then if there was additional notifications I wanted to turn on, I would do that up here. So this is an appointment scheduled notification, meaning that as soon as I save the appointment, the client is going to get a text and an email, and my employee is going to get a text and an email. On appointment change notification, you could turn those on, and then appointment cancel notification, right? So you got a bunch of different notifications to choose from, some that go just to the clients, some that can go to the clients and the employees, depending on what you need. Awesome. Well, hey, I hope this getting started video has helped you. Like I said, the getting started video is not meant to cover everything in absolute detail. Phone number is 1-800-604-2040. Once again, 1-800-604-2040. I look forward to helping, and have a great day.